Hey everyone, Nick Deckard here with a new video for you that I've gotten a couple requests for, and while this isn't going to be relevant to everybody, those of you who might be considering moving to Ocean City full-time, this is for you. Now before we talk about the neighborhoods, one of the things that you should know about and be aware of before making your choice is what does the flooding look like in each of these different areas. So you'll see a link right here that will take you to my flooding video that will show you how to use a very good tool that will show you with a visualization what flooding is like at a particular address, on a block, in a neighborhood. It can be as detailed or as vague as you want to see it. But if you're going to be here full-time on a barrier island, you need to know that in the off-season, in the fall and the winter, especially when we get our nor'easters, you'll see a lot more flooding through a lot of the streets here than you would ever see in the summer when there's basically none. So each of these neighborhoods that we're going to talk about has a different elevation, has a different flooding situation. So along with the points that I'm going to make about each neighborhood and why it may be a good choice for you, make sure you're factoring that flooding into the equation when it comes time for you to make your choice. So we're going to break this up into 4 parts. Part number 1, the actual logistics of moving to Ocean City. Part number 2, where are the year-round neighborhoods where you're actually going to have some neighbors? Part number 3, what is there to do in Ocean City in the off-season? And part number 4, what's it like to raise kids in a family here? All right, so for part number 1, the actual logistics of moving to Ocean City are not too different from moving anywhere else. Now, instead of going through every step in detail, what I'm going to do is include a link below in the description that will take you to a moving checklist that will walk you through every step. Now, that's going to the DMV, that's changing your mailing address, everything you can think of will be covered there. So that allows us to jump right into the meat and potatoes of this video. And these are questions that I hear frequently from people who have considered moving to Ocean City. After having lived in Maryland for several years, I had to make the same decisions that you might have to make when you are thinking about moving to Ocean City. So I've been through it and I'm here to help. So you might be wondering, where are the year-round neighborhoods in Ocean City? If you've been down here in the summer at all, it's hard to tell. There are actually several parts of town that don't have many, if any, year-round owners. Now, that might be easy to guess if you've been here several times. Some might surprise you. So I'm going to go through a list of the different areas based on primary residences in each block, in each section of town. Yes, I went through all the boring numbers, so you do not have to. And I'm going to break down the different areas that you might want to consider if you are looking for that neighborhood feel. So the first area to consider, I am biased because I live here myself, is an area we call Marion Park. So Marion Park is a little sectioned off community. When you come over the 34th Street Bridge, you head toward Bay Avenue, basically everywhere to the right. Between 34th Street and Bay Avenue, everything back here is Marion Park. Now, Marion Park has larger lots than most other parts of town. It is definitely quieter because the only people who come through here live here. There's nowhere to travel to. You'll just get stuck in a residential neighborhood. So for those 2 reasons, Marion Park is a great one to consider. Now, for a third reason, moving here full-time is not for the faint of heart, especially with prices the way they are now. So Marion Park, compared to other parts of town, is more affordable. So if those 3 reasons resonate with you, I highly recommend that you consider Marion Park. The second neighborhood we're going to talk about is Bay Landings. Now, Bay Landings is on the west side of Bay Avenue from about the airport up until about 32nd Street. So it's a very, very heavily single-family oriented neighborhood. There's only really one condo complex, Nantucket, that is included in the Bay Landings neighborhood. And there are a lot of year-round residents there. It's made primarily of cul-de-sacs, wide streets. It's a generally, again, another quiet part of town where you can get away from the hustle and bustle in peak season and have your own little piece of paradise. So third up, we have the North End. And the North End ranges from North Street to 5th Street, from the beach to the bay. Aside from the fact that the primary school and the high school are both right there on 5th Street, is that flooding tends to be less of a concern in certain parts of the North End than you might find in some of the other residential areas on the island. The North End might also be a good consideration for you if you are an avid surfer, as some of the best surfing beaches are in the North End. You are right near downtown Asbury as well. Easy ride to the boardwalk, so there's a lot in a close vicinity in the North End, but you're also far enough away from the heart of town when you don't want to be in that mix during the summer season. So fourth up, we have the Gardens, and you may have heard of the Gardens. If you have not, I'll give you a very, very quick history lesson on the Gardens neighborhood. So from North Street all the way to the north end of the island, that was developed by a company called the Gardens Corporation. Now, it's a bit of a misnomer now because that has the most trees and general plant life that you'll find anywhere on the island. So that is kind of the current reason that people call it the Gardens, but there is a real reason why it started in the first place. So the Gardens is famous for its irregular lots, its winding streets, and its large homes. So that is more of a luxury part of town. It has a higher price point, has quieter beaches, has a lot going for it as well. As similar to Marion Park, like we talked about, you're not really going to go traveling and exploring through the streets of the Gardens unless you live there for the most part. So if solitude and luxury is your cup of tea, the Gardens would be an excellent choice. All right, fifth on the list is an area called Ocean City Homes. Now, Ocean City Homes is down in the South End, and I'm also going to include a link above. This is a lot to keep track of among the other things we're going to talk about. So the link above will take you to the neighborhood overview that goes through a lot of these same facts, but in a more structured way and a more detailed way if you'd like to dig in a little bit more on each of these neighborhoods. So back to Ocean City Homes. So that is, again, a heavily single-family home neighborhood. It is set back off of Bay Avenue to the west side, so you're a little further from the beach. However, in the South End, the beaches are closer, as most of the streets outside of Central, where it cuts off down there, disappear. So you've got Central Avenue, Asbury, West, and after West, you get right into Ocean City Homes. So you could have a single-family home just a few blocks away from big beaches at a relatively affordable price. Now, that affordability, of course, is there for a reason. So similar to Marion Park, when you are that close to the marsh and to the bay, when you're on the west side of the island, flooding tends to be a concern. It's not the end-all be-all. Again, check the flooding map to really get a clear picture of what it's going to look like, but it's a great area where, similar to Marion Park, you can have a fenced-in yard, you can have plenty of space, and it gives you a feel that you don't see on most of the island, where almost everything's a duplex these days. So Ocean City Homes is another great place to check out if you're looking for an affordable single-family home. And now you might be wondering, how many areas am I going to cover? Haven't I already talked about basically the whole island? You're not wrong, but I do only have one more area to cover, and that is the Riviera section. So the Riviera section is right off of Bay Avenue, Walnut, Arkansas, Pine, Spruce. If you see the names, and there are a number of them, you might recognize it, but that Riviera was a development, and it is filled with lagoons. So you have the ability to still be basically in the heart of town, right between 18th and 24th Street, but be set back enough at a good enough elevation while still being close to the bay that it's a really good situation. Now, one of the things you'll notice, like the Gardens, in the Riviera, homes tend to be pricey, and there are several reasons for that. The first of which, and you have large single-family homes. When you have large single-family homes on an island where land is at a premium, you have to pay the price. So number two is that you're really no more than a street away from the bay at any point in time. So that proximity to the beautiful sunsets, to hopefully making some friends with the neighbors and being able to enjoy the bay yourself, the Riviera has a lot going for it. So in a nutshell, those are the main areas where we have a pretty decent year-round population. So the areas that I didn't mention are really the hubs of town. So coming in the 9th Street Bridge, anywhere around 9th Street for the most part, really makes a whole lot more sense for it to be a touristy part of town. Rents tend to be higher in that part of town, which really drives property use. We call it the highest and best use of the land, more towards second homeowners who rent or just investors who rent out their properties as well. So we have the central part of Ocean City is probably not going to have the same neighborhood feel if that's what you're looking for. A block or two off the beach at almost any part of town south of that main hub, we're talking the Gold Coast, we're talking anywhere really south of the North End. Within those few blocks from the beach, again, those tend to primarily be used for something other than a primary residence. So that's a lot to digest, and there are several choices, and each have their own flavor to them. Going to depend on your budget, going to depend on the feel that you're going for, and it might be worth exploring, driving around in some of these neighborhoods to really get a feel for what they're like. All right, so now that you have an idea of where you might want to live, what is there to do once you get here? So everybody knows the activities that Ocean City provides and makes readily available during the summer season when it's beautiful out. But what happens the other times of the year? It's a question I get all the time. And honestly, growing up here, I had the same thoughts myself. There's not enough to do. Why is everything closed? Things have to be better elsewhere. While living in Maryland for several years taught me that that was not necessarily true. Winter is winter in the Northeast. Now, unless you are on a ski slope, if you're a snow sport enthusiast, you're probably going to live most of winter inside your house. The difference between winter everywhere else in the Northeast and winter in Ocean City, obviously most of the shops, especially on the boardwalk, close down. A lot of the restaurants close down. So getting takeout can become more of an adventure than it would be otherwise. But while all of that's happening, on those few nice sunny days or where the wind is howling off the bay but it's blocked up on the boardwalk, you get to spend some nice sunny days outside by the beach. It's also a fantastic time of year to explore the mainland right off of the island. So there's a more stable year-round population. Upper Township, Summers Point, Northfield, Linwood, you name it. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of great restaurants, a lot of great places that you probably might not know about because when you're in Ocean City, you tend to stay in Ocean City. But there are a lot of hidden gems out there in every category, and that ranges from activities, sports leagues, restaurants, coffee, runs the gamut. So while I know I didn't give you a specific list of exactly what is there to do here in the off-season, the off-season is more than just winter. I know most people gravitate toward winter and wonder what it's like when it's howling and it's cold here. It does get very windy. It gets very cold, but that's winter. So what about the other two seasons in the off-season? Spring and the fall. For me, fall is my favorite time of year. We call it local summer in September especially, but there's still beach days. The water is still plenty warm, and you can do it without the crowds. So the fall is beautiful, not only for the changing nature that we do have here, but there are numerous parades. There are a lot of city-run events and private-run events that really cater to the year-round residents. We still get visitors from the mainland that come specifically for these things, whether it's the parades, whether it's for Santa climbing down the fire truck off of City Hall. There's a lot going on. So the fall is my favorite by far, and the spring ain't too bad either. So it tends to be rainy, more so here than on the mainland, simply because of the environment that living on an island presents. So we don't get a ton of snow. It tends to turn to rain. So as we move into spring, it can get a little bit wet. Now, that aside, that's when the nicer weather starts to come in. So when it's not raining, you have a damn near empty boardwalk, empty beaches for you to use at your leisure. And nothing beats that. So on to the fourth and final topic. What's it like raising kids or raising a family here in Ocean City? Again, I'm biased. I grew up here. I'm raising my son here, and I intend to raise future children here as well. So why? Why did I come back? What was so appealing about raising a family here versus elsewhere out in the world? I nicely call Ocean City, and used to refer to it growing up as the bubble, because we tend to be separated from a lot of what goes on in the rest of the country, sometimes even the rest of the world. So why is it nice to be raised in a bubble? Why is it nice to raise a family in a bubble? It's a very safe environment. I grew up riding my bike pretty much anywhere I wanted with my friends when I was a reasonable age, and it was completely safe. There was never any concern of anything bad happening. Now, I know that sounds like a Hallmark movie, and no place is truly perfect, but I can let my 4-year-old out front and not have to worry about it. Where I was in Maryland, given the traffic that was just up and down the street, it's something I never would have been able to do. So kids can roam free here, especially in the off-season, with minimal worries for you as a current or future parent. Now, there are a ton of other activities for kids as well, and that's not just your normal sports and arts type of camps and programs, but everything that Ocean City is about at our heart, at our core, is about family. So whether it's on season or off season, there are always events being put on to bring families together, to help people make memories of their time here, and to continue our tradition of really being the best family resort in all of America. So on top of the events, obviously, we have our great school system, and that's made up of 3 schools. We have our primary, intermediate, and high school. So primary and intermediate run from K through 3, and then 4 through 8, and that is, for the most part, just Ocean City residents. Now, when high school age comes, we also source and accept and support other surrounding communities that don't have a high school of their own. Upper Township, Sea Isle, Corbin City, and a few others. So not only do your kids get to grow up with their friends, go through school, but they also then get exposed to others at a very important time for kids to meet other people and expand their horizons. So once they get to high school especially, but really it starts in middle school as well, there's some very unique opportunities that your children will have simply by going to school here versus somewhere on the mainland. 2 of the main ones being the surf team and the crew team. Both are fantastic opportunities, not only for competition, but for crew especially, an additional avenue to get your children into college if that's a direction that they would like to go in. So, in a nutshell, living in Ocean City year-round is fantastic. Winter and flooding are the 2 biggest issues that come to mind for people as hesitancies. And for flooding, again, we do get hit with nor'easters through hurricane season in the fall and into the winter. So make sure that you're fully aware of the flooding picture on anywhere you might be considering buying. So if you have any questions, pop them in the comments below. If you found this helpful, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, as well as hit the bell to turn on notifications. I look forward to putting out some more videos in the coming weeks, and I will see you on the next video.